Hello. I'm
Hello.
ready for any questions or any clarifications.
Hello. We started our last session with the one by requesting to understand who we're speaking with today.
Are you asking me who I
Yes.
am?
Who we're speaking with today, yes.
I am the Christ consciousness. I have incarnated into Jesus Christ, as you know, who has walked the earth. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Do you have any opening statements for us
Mhm.
today?
The Christ consciousness is my essence that once I transitioned from earthly life into the ethers, my soul and essence went into the unified field. And I find it very befitting to have me on, as this is the Christian day of Good Friday.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here on this wonderful day, actually. Can you help us and our audience understand the importance of Good Friday?
To begin with, this is a religious holiday. The religions have come up with parameters, so to speak, rules, so that people could follow and find comfort and community. However, my mission is different. I chose to come to live on earth as a human and preach, teach, express the messages that I have learned as I grew as a human being, along with my soul's mission. So, with that, the other churches and religions have focused on other areas. I am not commenting on those, whether they are right or wrong, whether they should be followed or not, because everyone can find solace in those teachings. I am here to present what I have always presented, which is my findings. And that is the whole purpose for me to speak through Jackie. Now, the simplest terms of my teachings is that they are accessible to everyone, no matter what your religious beliefs are. These are natural laws. They pertain to everyone. Everyone can access the cosmos. However, it is up to the individual to make their way to doing this. And the if you will, Good Friday, I'm trying to weigh the religious beliefs to my natural messages. And this is where I have a hard time reconciling the two. So let me just say my take on things. And then you can ask me if you have any religious questions. So I come to Earth, I speak about my findings, which are primarily natural laws that pertain to everyone. And my essence, or rather, I should say, my human being, was compromised. It was put to death. However, that is primarily the reason that I came to show everyone, because everyone will die. Death is a gateway. It is not something to be fearful of. Again, it is a doorway that once one steps through, your essence, your soul, travels back to the unified field, the cosmos, if you will, God, if you will. And because of that, that is how the church interprets by saying that he has risen, meaning I appeared, but only to a select few that understood this process. Now, I know this is confusing because people have been conditioned to believe in a heaven, hell, purgatory, when that is not the case. So the soul returns back to the unified field, God.
Thank you. When you incarnated, were you aware of your choice from an early age to incarnate? Were you aware of your soul's choice while you were here as a human?
Of course, that's why I chose to incarnate. I knew I was going to be put to death and so on. I knew that. I knew that ahead of time. I chose to have the human life experience because there is much to be said about teaching people from experience. I wanted to learn the human experience, and I did learn that. I loved as a man. I had children as a man, and yet I could still teach my messages and share with many people.
Many treat the Bible as a history of your life, but there's quite a large segment missing from the time that you were a child to the time that you're approximately in your 30s and preparing for your death sentence, essentially. During that lost period of time, can you tell us a little bit about your life?
I don't know who was lost, but it certainly wasn't me. I was learning because I am a student as well. I have never stopped learning, and that is why I chose to come on Earth. I wanted to learn and have the human experience so that I could understand how people could feel, act the way they do. And because of that, I studied during those years. And because of my studies all over, I met many, many, many different kinds of people all over the world. And because of this, I am able to not only understand, but also talk, communicate with others that have various backgrounds and complaints. So my schooling was during those years.
Thank you. During that period, you also had a connection with Jackie during that time. Can you tell us a little bit about the history with yourself and Jackie?
Oh, yes. So I was, as a man, speaking outside of a marketplace, a gathering. I was on the outside.
Mm.
Know if she heard my words, however, she felt my presence. And she looked up and turned, and she knew that she wanted to learn more. She wanted to follow, to understand, because she felt it in her heart. Now, she gravitated towards the outskirts of this walled marketplace. And she tilted her head so she could hear. And once she could hear, she knew. And with that, she followed me. She had her friend with her so that the two girls, for they were girls, not sure what ages, but they would follow and they would help with meals, washing, etc. So that when I spoke to the men who were allowed to hear and learn, that Jackie and Lauren would listen while they were doing their chores. Now, I also spoke to them on other occasions when I was not speaking to the men officially. You see, the men had a hard time with the teachings. And that is primarily because the men were already taught to know their religious beliefs and studies. So they came already programmed with a set of beliefs. My teachings were totally opposite, if you will, of those taught messages. The women were not taught they were not schooled in any formal teachings or religious beliefs other than what women were taught, which dealt with cooking, cleaning, and other first aid things. So when the women heard my teachings, they understood immediately because my teachings follow the laws of the natural world. They are not man made, they flow with the universe. Whereas the men were taught, and therefore they had to break down their already instilled belief systems. And that was hard for them to maneuver around.
So Jackie and Lauren, as young women, it sounds like it might have been quite dangerous for them for in the culture during that time to follow you.
And that is why they teamed up, because having the two together, they were able to watch out for one another. And the group that followed me were more on a spiritual belief mission versus any others. We were a tight knit group. So I made sure that nothing would harm them.
And their families let them follow you?
Yes, it was a break in their custom, but ultimately they did because they had each other. Eventually, when I was no longer around, they each married and so on, had family, babies, and they had their life as according to how women were back in those days, but they did retain all the teachings throughout many lifetimes. And now it is this lifetime that actually Jackie is beginning to see, for she is a seer, that she's able to accept this mission.
Did you find it easier? So you said the men had more trouble adapting to these natural laws that you were teaching. Did you feel that women were more receptive, although they had been raised with the same traditions as the men?
To clarify, the men were actually taught, schooled in the Hebrew way. They learned their schoolwork. Women, girls, were not taught in any way. So they knew their customs and their chores and their duties, but they were not taught other than a very preliminary basis of their belief system. But they were not schooled in that.
And this made them more receptive to
Yes,
your new ideas.
yes, because the natural laws are simple once you understand. So women have a natural feminine side, a receptive side, And when I say women, it could mean the female part of a person that is more receptive to understanding this language of natural laws.
How would you like to see these teachings work through women today?
Women that have this ability to connect to their innermost self, which is the light switch, remember that,
Yeah.
to the unified field, the God part within. This is the direct connection. Now, females, or the more open side to a person, has this ability to connect. And by this connection, they can deepen it or strengthen this connection and bring forth various messages. Now, this is how Jackie is doing this, but she has had quite a varied past, if you will, having studied with me. So she does have a little bit more experience, background that will come through as she settles more into this role that I have requested of her. She has agreed to do this. So it is a process. She is learning, and she is accepting it more and more, along with seeing it.
When you say Jackie agreed to this and Lauren agreed to this mission, is this something that they agreed to while you were incarnated as a human and took them inside and say, "Hey, you might not believe me, but 2000 years from now, I'm going to be knocking on your door again." Or is it something that was agreed to at a soul level?
Well, when Jackie was walking on earth with me and learning and following my teachings, there was a point in time when I knew I would be no longer on earth. I promised her that I would never leave her. You see, I think she always felt she made the promise. I made the promise. I am always with her, no matter what. Through many lifetimes, she pushed it away. Even this lifetime, she pushed it away until I finally was able to clear a space for her and led her to do certain things that would help her get to this point. She has developed trust, belief, faith, patience. And now she is seeing this cycle complete. Now she is beginning to, how you say, see the bigger picture. And she is okay with that.
During from your original teachings, is there a teaching that has carried through the centuries that you feel needs more clarity?
Mm. There's a lot of a lot of teachings that need more clarity. However, this is not about religious bashing. This is more about revealing the fundamental laws of nature. And again, this stream of consciousness of these laws has lost its validity, its knowledge, and its acceptance to the human beings that are, I want to say, controlled by others. Now, there's many different groups of humans, of civilizations that have always maintained a connection to these natural laws. And I am referring to indigenous peoples of all sorts, not just in the United States, but as well as the South Americans. So the Christian groups of peoples have lost that thread of knowledge and have included their own sets of beliefs.
Thank you.
Mm.
When you were incarnated as a human, you were a man. Did you experience hate and fear and shame as a human?
Of course, I experienced all of it. That's why I incarnated. I wanted to feel it all. I also felt romantic love, hurt, broken heart, all of it. I felt it all because I wanted to learn, feel it, so that I could understand how people felt, why they did things the way they did them. It was my learning experience.
Thank you. Who are our saviors in this time period?
Define saviors.
So people, humans and across cultures are always looking for a new messiah, a new and we are talking about religion again, and people pitting a religion against each other because they have the message that they will be saved. So when we think of a savior, who should we be thinking of?
Yourself. For you are the only one that can help yourself. And as I understand what a savior means, it is to save someone. And who's better to save someone than yourself?
Thank you. That makes perfect sense.
I think the various religions have programmed this idea of Messiah, Savior, as an outward persona to save another human. And it is these outward gods, if you will, that are, I'm trying to find how to describe this, for this has really no relevance to my messages, my belief system. I did not, when I came on earth, I did not want to be known as the King of the Jews. I did not want that. I was simply teaching others to seek within themselves, seek the light in themselves and the connection to God directly, not a savior, an external force. For God is in every natural element, the trees, the grass, the sun, the moon, all the creatures, even the creepy crawly ones. That is God, not some figure coming down from the sky to save another person.
And yet, Christians specifically say to reach for Jesus Christ in order to be saved.
Yes, this is exactly what I did not want. So I am not here to speak about religious issues because those religions started well after I was gone. And they were devised by human men that were not well equipped with the proper teachings of mine.
Did you incarnate more than once?
Not after that experience. That was my one and only lifetime because I did it all. I had no need to come back in human form. Now, my consciousness, my essence, can be accessed by many humans. And this is the fun part. I know at a human level it is confusing to understand this, but for me, I had to die, if you will, so that many people can access me, my consciousness, my essence, and they can tap into these messages all over the world and elsewhere.
So it is, even though it's inappropriate, perhaps, and forgive if I'm jumbling my words, but
It's okay. Continue.
even, sorry, even though it it might seem inappropriate to think of you as a savior, it is still appropriate, or within appropriate, maybe the wrong word, but still, I'm going to use that, hoping that you understand the meaning. But it is still appropriate to pray to you, to ask for your guidance, to ask for your feedback.
Of course. That's why I'm here. That's why I chose to incarnate, die, and have my essence in the ethers so that people can access me. You see, that is a direct communication versus going through a third party. Everyone can access me. And the one thing the Bible has right is only say my name and I will be there. That's direct. That's what it's about. So, yes, I provide guidance, but you need to ask. For in asking, that means that you are open and willing to hear, see what it is that you are looking for. You are searching, seeking an answer of something. And when no one else has answers, I'm usually the last place somebody asks, or they are downtrodden, in bad repair, and they ask me for guidance. But it doesn't have to get to that point of disrepair. That's why I say practice meditating, turn on your light switch, practice connecting. And in so doing, you will connect with me. The channels of communication are open. Then we have a conversation versus a desperate plea of help.
Is that the meaning of faith then? To reach out before it's too late, to understand that the relationship is always there.
Exactly. Faith is knowing. You may not know how or why, but there's an inner knowing that there is something there. You don't know how, you know that. And it's faith. Belief is similar, but belief is more, you can almost wish it, want it. You know it can happen. Faith is, you don't know if it can happen, but you know that there is something there.
Thank you.
And trust is knowing that it will happen no matter what, without a doubt. Doubt, that's the greatest disruptor in everything. It's not fear, it's doubt. Doubt puts a little wedge in between your belief, faith, trust. And it's just that little bit of uncertainty. That's one area to really focus on, is reducing the doubt. And to do that is to believe. Believe that it will happen, whatever it is you are praying for. Trust that you know it will happen, and then have faith that somehow it'll work. It will.
And my guess is a little patience also helps.
Yes, and patience, yes, yes. Sometimes it can happen overnight, sometimes it can happen in an instant, sometimes it takes lifetimes.
Thank
Mm,
you.
you're
I'm
welcome.
going to open for Lauren would like to ask a question.
So it seems to me now and then that a lot of what you were providing was guidance towards empowerment. And empowerment, I think, was fairly limited while you were on the planet. There was a lot of dogma, a lot of structure. And as you were talking about the education that men had, that taught them to think in a particular way without much wiggle room for other ideas. Is now a good time for empowerment?
Mm-hmm. So let me explain the scenario back when I incarnated. There was a lot of darkness. There was very little light. I was the light. I brought light to wherever I went. People knew I was coming from miles away because of the light. Now, that may have presented to them as word of mouth of, hey, did you hear? Type of thing. But there was darkness, which meant fear. So yes, my teachings were about empowerment, but most important, it was about bringing the light to everyone. And this is what scared those in power, because they did not want people empowered. They did not want people enlightened. They wanted people to be kept in darkness, in fear, and not thinking for themselves. So, yes, you are correct. There's a lot of darkness.
And how is that different from right now?
Right now, we have what is being played out, a very drastic play of light, a lot of light, and a lot of fear. People are still being kept in the darkness and being controlled by those who wish to control people. Darkness. But there is more light. Also, this is showing how there is a law of polarity, duality, where there's positive, there's negative, where there's yes, there's no, light, darkness, and everything has a perfect balance, a rhythm. The sun will always rise and set. The moon will always rise and set. The ocean waves will ebb and flow. The seasons change. There is a natural progression of rhythm. So, with this current state of affairs, those that are sensitive can see this playing out as a lot of fear, but also recognize there is a lot of light that is coming, that is here. So the split between the two is the polarity, the duality, the balance of such. It will have its turn, and this will subside. It may take years, and yet it may not. It all depends on how humans react. For it is up to the humans to do something. There is another law of nature that is cause and effect. If you do something, then there is an effect to it. As a president is elected, the cause, there is an effect of his actions. Now, this vibration that you all who are most sensitive to these things are feeling is the law of vibration. Because your vibration level is high, set on high, you feel these lower vibrations. And it is disturbing, distressing, upsetting. But just know that it is only temporary. Now, it is up to the people as to how temporary this is.
Well, I can say that for those of us who have worked very hard for our peace, we find all of the fear and the fighting to be tiresome. How do we not get pulled in and engage with that out of frustration?
So just know that your gauge of sensitivity to these world events are set really high. It's as though you need to lower the thermostat of your sensitivity level so that you as a person do not get pulled into this fear, anxiety, because you are needed elsewhere. Now, I say that in the sense of how you can help in this atmosphere. Step back and breathe. Breathe into this vibration of high level light. Breathe and blow it into the darkness so that this darkness starts to rise and the level of vibration increases to one of love. For there are many different spectrum of feelings that has a corresponding vibration. So love is on the highest level. Fear is on the lower level. And there's all sorts of other vibrations in between that correspond to feelings, such as courage. Perhaps we need to elevate the fear to an elevation level of courage so that we can help those out of fear. That level of vibration for fear is very hard to get out. You cannot go, it's like a car. You cannot go from 0 to 60 in however many seconds, not when it comes to feelings and vibrational levels. It is best to take it up slowly so that people can integrate these vibrations on a more sustainable way.
Okay. So those of us who have been warriors many lifetimes, this is incredibly difficult. I have spent years putting down my weapons from all those lifetimes, and I'm enjoying my peace, and I'm not enjoying trying to avoid being triggered to go and just, slap someone. So thank God I've spent all this time learning how to be a life coach and understanding the process of working through fear. But this is one giant therapy session for the entire world. Now, I have, friends who are like, why aren't you doing something? Why aren't you saying something? And my answer was, tell you what, I'm not going to pick up my weapons again, but I will help to raise the vibration of as many people as I can so you have fewer people to fight. Yeah, look at that face.
And you know what I'm thinking?
I do.
Patience. Again, you cannot go from 0 to 60 all in one shot.
Hurry up.
It's too much, too fast for the masses amount of people that are living in fear. They will not be able to handle it. They need the slower progression so that they're able to sustain and live at that vibration. And then they can move on to another vibration feeling so that they can incorporate that. And then, hey, it may be that they're only 2 steps away from love.
I think it's interesting this time around that the fear manipulation and the victim script is so obvious. I don't know if it's because of where I'm personally standing or it's just really obvious. So I guess, all things will be shown and you can see it or not, depending on where you are. So you talked about, continuing to shine a light, and that is part of what the three of us are doing to the best of our ability in amongst everything else. Gee, didn't you pick a tough time for us to do this? Thanks.
So let me ask you a question. You and Lynn, why do you think it is my time to come through Jackie now? Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a lot of kerfufflement going on out there. And we have, I think because of technology, we have the ability to reach a lot of people. And hopefully the three of us have attained a high enough vibration that we can understand these messages and what you're saying. And I don't know. It's time.
Thank you. Finally. Patience.
I do believe a lot of people are, as Lauren said, they're starting to see how obvious that the manipulation has been. But they've been in Plato's cave, so to speak, for so long that to step into the light is a little disorienting.
Yes.
So this message right now is really a light.
Baby steps to be able to raise the vibration in stages versus all at once. And that causes a lot of turmoil. You see it through somebody who has done that all at once, but with fear. There's chaos. No?
Yes.
So, gradual steps to elevating vibrational levels through the various feelings of those vibrational levels. That's very important to understand this concept, if you will, or it is not a concept. And that's the primary reason. This is real. These are real natural laws, the law of vibration. This is important concept to understand. Not many people can understand this. Therefore, that's why my teachings, if you will, were not made known in the so-called Bible, because these natural laws do not promote individuals. These natural laws are available to everyone. Again, everyone. That's why those in power, feared me. I was, in their eyes, powerful. I had many people, still do have many people following me but not according to the teachings that I taught at the time. Understand that.
So you were talking about duality. Is that something that will always exist on this
Yes.
planet?
Yes. Natural law.
So
Yes.
can you, if you think about duality as a seesaw, can you get a little closer to the
Balance? Yes, because that is another law. Rhythm. The swings don't have to be as so wide. It can be more in balance, but there's always a duality.
So you were talking about you came onto the planet to experience life as a human. Is that pretty much what everyone does? Come to this planet to
Yes.
experience
Yes.
this type of experience with all the emotions and
All
all
the
the
emotions.
duality and
Yes.
all of the struggle.
Yes. Because there's many lessons to be learned. And there still are many lessons for humans to come through and reincarnate. You may have conquered the shame element, but you may not have conquered the forgiveness part.
I feel like in the work that I do that people are working on multiple aspects of being human. I don't know if in previous lifetimes we only got like one big one to work on, but it feels like people are working on a bunch of them at once now. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes, that is human. That is being in the human experience. You work on many, many things. You know, you could. So let's give an example, as in Jackie's case, this current lifetime. All right. So, all right. It's funny because she does talk about this herself, but she married the first time. She thought she was in love or knew what love was, you know, until she prayed for love. I sent her what romantic love would be for her. Wow. Now she learned what romantic love is. Then she learned about other things, many other things, but just to go through certain aspects of how to care for aging parents that maybe, especially one, wasn't so nice to her, but she learned. She learned how to forgive. So for her, in looking back, because you learn through hindsight, she has learned various lessons. Now, that's not to say she has stopped learning because she conquered all the lessons. No, that's not how it works. You always have lessons. Always. You may not be understanding them, recognizing them, seeing them for what they are, but there's always lessons, always things to learn and better yourself as a human. Now, the question is there ever a point where you conquered all your lessons and do not need to reincarnate? Well, if that's the case, then you would be like me. I do not need to come back to reincarnate because my mission was to have my essence, my consciousness out in the ethos so that people could access that. That was the primary goal, reason. That was much more important than having a human life for me. That was my number one mission. Now, that has not been spoken about through all the various religious texts. They have ignored reincarnation. They have ignored all the natural laws. So I am only presenting my take on things.
So, being that this is Easter weekend and it's all about rising, you had talked about death as a gateway, and that when you pass through that gateway, you are in the unity field. I know that that was the only way you could experience the unity field. Is that still true? Or have we evolved enough to be able to glimpse it, get a feel for it without having to go through the disembodiment process?
Good question. Yes, you can experience the unified field at times. People have near-death experiences and they have experienced it and they come back out of that near-death experience a changed person. You can have an out-of-body experience. Same thing. You have caught a glimpse of what it would be like and you are changed. Also, you can meditate. There are other ways. Meditation is another way where you can tap into this field by way of flipping the light switch on, which is your connection. Other ways are, like I have said, art, music. This can be listening to music, doing art, or appreciating art. And another way, very big one, is sleep and the dream time. Not necessarily sleep, but although that is one aspect, but I want to emphasize dream time. For the dream time is not only when you're sleeping, but it can happen when you are, and this happens for Jackie, driving. You are in a more hypnotic, mesmerizing state, and you can have your mind wander. She did this a lot in grade school. She does not recall her childhood, as she puts it, because she was in the dream time most of the time. Mm-hmm. And this is where the connection to the unified field, God, Christ consciousness, the Buddha consciousness. We haven't spoken about Buddha and other ascended masters, but it is primarily the same thought process, philosophy, if you will, as to those that have come on earth in human form and have crossed over into the ethos for others to access. So yes, there are other ways to access this unified field.
Is it safe to say that we are multidimensional beings and we just need to remember that?
Okay. Finally, a question. Yes. So everyone knows and has heard this. Not everyone believes this. And maybe not everyone has heard this, but you are a spiritual being having a human experience. Okay. That's been said over and over. But what does that really mean? Have you realized that to your core? What that means is you're not only a spiritual being, but you are, as you say, interdimensional, meaning there is no time, which in human layman terms would be said that there is no past, present, or future. It is only now. So what you are remembering as past or future happens all at once. You, as a spiritual being, can access these points of interest, let's just say, through accessing the unified field. This unified field, again, think of it as an electrical circuit board that is vast, endless. You can access anything. You can access your past history of lives. You can access your future history of lives. You can access healing modalities. You get the point here.
So we can pull through knowledge abilities from other times. In
Absolutely.
quotation marks.
Absolutely.
Is that some of the reason why sometimes you just know how to do things?
Yes.
Cool.
You are listening to your spiritualness. Not many people can actualize, realize this primary concept. It is not a concept. I keep saying that it's a
It just is.
lack of a better word. Yes, philosophical. There are no words to describe certain things. This is an element that you need to internalize and understand. And once you actualize it, you get it.
So what about all the video games that are allowing people to understand what an avatar is, and through that avatar they get to have all these experiences, while a portion of them, an aspect of them, is still sitting outside of that? Is that a stepping stone to understanding this?
It is teaching the younger generations of these concepts, philosophies, if you will, so that the thought, belief system can be implanted more easily versus the older generations that have built up so many walls and thickness of beliefs that they just do not care to break down and acknowledge of something else.
Well, we send them peace then.
Yes, there is a need for those older generations. They are reminders, along with they have wisdom that they bring to us, wisdom of strength and beliefs and knowledge of prior history. They serve a purpose too.
Well, if they hadn't survived, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Right. So we acknowledge them, give them thanks for showing us, teaching us that perhaps we do not wish to continue on in their shoes, for their hands were tied, so to speak.
Sure. We have our own version of survival and empowerment and enlightenment to get through.
Yes.
So, what are your closing thoughts for this weekend and this time?
My closing thoughts are this. So, don't you find it funny, interesting, that my religious death and risen coincides to springtime?
Yes.
Spring represents the growth, the new beginning, if you will. And this is how we can think of Easter. It is a connecting to ourselves, to the unified field, the light, the God part within, where everything is possible. This is why I came to Earth, so that everyone can tap into this God part on their own. No middleman, through nature. a natural element, a natural law. Doesn't that feel more in tune with a vibration that is of a higher intent than one based on dogma?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
Thank you for, well, everything. Thanks for being here in all the different ways that you are here, including here with us right now.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me this space and time in hearing my messages. Thank you.
I love the conversation.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.